Welcome to MindShifters Radio. And today is, my computer's not flipping up. Let me make sure. Today is March the 5th, 2026. Welcome to the show. Hi, Andrea. I think that's probably Faye. And welcome, Michael.
Thank you, dear heart. And welcome, everybody. Let's get ready to move forward to another level of integrating these amazing first century tools and standing in willingness to learn what the tools have to teach us. And then with the application of the tools, the fact that we get to open to revelation gives us a whole leg up on the time when we were strictly living in constructs of the mind, strictly living in perceptions painted on the inside of our eyeballs. So we're looking to pass that phase. Actually, one of the keys to truly living as a human being is that you've got to be out of your mind. You've got to let go of the past. And virtually everything that the human mind shows, take out the word virtually, everything that the human mind shows us is some form of massaged content from the past made to look like the present. An old issue. And those old issues, when they're resonated into activity by an event in the world or by language we speak or by a goal that we set, those old issues get massaged by the mind to look like somebody out there. And that's one of the reasons why responsibility communication, in the context of healing through relationships, that responsibility communication is so powerful and so important. And basically we have two types of communication. One we call projection communication. That's where I have a construct produced by my carbon-based memory showing up in my mind, painted metaphorically on the inside of my eyeballs, although I think I'm looking out there. And whoever it is I think is out there that's the cause of what's moving in me, I talk about how they're the reason that I'm experiencing this construct in my mind. That's projection communication. Responsibility communication, one uses words to communicate, to actually exchange information with others, and they realize that the construct in their own mind belongs to them rather than everybody else. And so we're looking to develop the brain cells for truly communicating responsibly. One of the things I've seen over the years is that children, even growing into adulthood, when they're from a divorced home, their belief is that they were the cause of the divorce. I've seen that over and over and over again. And so often adults are run by the constructs based in those things that were formed in earliest childhood and or perhaps passed genetically. Remember we talked about the file folder effect. The file folder effect says when two files are resonating in the mind at the same time, they wire together. The example I used a couple of weeks ago was don't think about a purple alligator. I know you got brain cells for purple and alligator, and as you've heard me use that example before, they're probably not wired together, but they're wired now. And if tomorrow I opened the show and said, don't think about a purple, what would move in your mind? Obviously alligator. If 25 years from now I said, don't think about a purple, what would move in your mind? Alligator would move. Those brain cells are still there. They're not gone, but they may have decayed so far away in amplitude that they're not accessible. And when there's something that's not accessible, but it's there, that's when somebody says, oh, it's on the tip of my tongue. It's like, oh, I can't get those brain cells to fire quite strongly enough to give me the actual information that's there. But what fires, even if I'm not aware of it, still impacts my physiology, my psychology, my behavior, my perception. And, many in early childhood experienced, one of the things we covered in the codependence facilitated session a couple of weeks ago was when a child becomes parentified, when a child is told that they have to take care of the adult. And the child, not knowing any better, makes up all kinds of realities. And, one of the most destructive communications that occurs with people, especially in close relationships, is communication that conveys that someone else is to blame for what's happening in your mind. Because most every child at some point in their life experienced blame, and there was nothing they could do about it. They were helpless. And the communication from the adult was that the child failed. And the child, being helpless to do anything about it, experienced hopelessness. Have you ever experienced hopeless, helpless, and failure? That's about the level of a 3-year-old. And there's where the forgiveness process comes in and is so important, is to clean up the hopeless, helpless, failure brain cells in the mind. To forgive is to those brain cells, literally to remove them, because in relationship, the minute that one partner communicates the other, you made me, what virtually everybody goes into is that hopeless, helpless, and failure. And if one doesn't have the tools, and not with no awareness that that's something that comes from early childhood, and those brain cells fire, when somebody's in a relationship and they're feeling hopeless, helpless, failure, and they have no tools with which to change the circumstance in their own mind or in their relationship, what most people do in hopeless, helpless, failure is leave. And that's the major thing that breaks relationship. So if one could just integrate responsibility communication into their minds and into their language, that whole hopeless, helpless, failure thing would disappear as a factor in relationship. Now, it would, if it's in there, it's going to come up in some way, shape, or form. But if responsibility communication is taking place, then there's going to be support for, oh, so I hear that your hopelessness is up. What is hopelessness? Hopelessness is an energetic thought that produces an energy where one is low energy, and literally the thought produces chemistry of immobilization. And so when one has the tool of forgiveness and there's responsibility communication happening, then hopeless, helpless, failure gets to surface in both people in the relationship. And instead of surfacing via projection, it's your fault that I'm experiencing this, it surfaces via support, in a space of support, in a space of healing. So the awesome thing about it is when the tools are there, when something painful or traumatic surfaces, both partners realize, and oftentimes, because most relationships are based in matching bags of garbage, most people realize, gee, my hopeless, helpless, failure stuff is up, and oh, it looks like yours is too. Tell you what, I'm here to support you healing that in you, and I would love to have your support in healing that in me. So instead of us pointing the finger at each other, instead of us pointing the finger at each other, we get to own, speak responsibly, and communicate about what's happening inside of us. Now, one of the other dynamics that comes up in a lot of relationships, especially with this hopeless, helpless failure thing comes up, the cover for that is hostility. A lot of people say, I'm committed to being nurturing and caring with you. That's how I'm going to live with you forever. I was even in our marriage vows. But when the stress is up and the chips are down, the words that were said once 5 years ago aren't available in this moment. What's available is the underlying emotional dynamic. And, probably one of the most common drugs. And just think if you've used this drug, how it's impacted your relationships. Like, I'll ask the question first before I mention what the drug is. Have you ever, at any point in your life, done something that you regret? Think back. Every time that you did something you regretted, if you were to name the emotional state you were in, what state would it be? Would it be love, where you've done something you regretted? No, we've asked this question of thousands of people over the years. It's an exercise we do in the workshop. Virtually everybody, their answer when they start really being honest with themselves and think back about when they did something they regretted, the energy that was moving them was hostility. And hostility is not an emotion, it's an internally produced anesthetic with which I shut down my pain, but also cover over my intelligence. You look at now, I can remember when I was a kid, and this was a piece of work that I did for me personally, probably 40 some years ago when I realized this. I was brought up in a family system where I had what I considered to be great aunts and uncles, my uncles especially. But they'd come from a pretty tough place. And about the only way they could communicate with each other was through sarcasm. And I can remember in my family system, the immediate family system and the larger family system, the one who could come up with the sarcastic comment, my sister was really good at this, my older sister, the one who could come up with a cutting, sarcastic comment the fastest was like, hooray, look at that, that's so cool. Do you know what the root of the word sarcasm is? Chasm. It's tear. The word sarcasm means to tear flesh. So if you've been taught that it's bright and sharp and admired to tear somebody's flesh, your own or someone else's, you might want to be aware of the kind of energy that you use when you're not getting your goals met. Because, and when I started to realize what sarcasm was, and the best definition I've been able to come up with it is that sarcasm is our culture's way of expressing otherwise unexpressible rage. And the rage at the root of sarcasm is the rage at the moment that you gave up being fueled by love, the point at which you gave up living in being. That's the root of that rage. And sarcasm just takes it all to the next level. When we gave up the delight and the joy of having in our physiology the fuel that's designed to run human physiology, which is love, when we gave that up to buy into the biting tongue, the sarcasm, the hostility, the rage, that unplugged us from being. And the reason we unplugged is one single bottom line to it. And that is we unplugged because we made something more important than being connected to our source. And our source is that of active present love. So all of this becomes changeable when you step into responsibility and own it. If you never step into responsibility and own it, then the bulk of the energy behind the behaviors based in hostility and fear stays hidden. Remember that Harvard research that says that in a time frame where 10,000 brain cells are firing, the max amount of data that goes into conscious awareness is 9 bits of data. We get to see just a little tiny speck. It's like the tip of the iceberg of what's going on inside. And if we've been taught, if we've been raised as most everybody in this culture, just turn on the television and watch it for 10 minutes. Flip from channel to channel to channel. And what you'll see is The basis of this culture as it's functioning today for most people is that virtually everyone is a member, a card-carrying member, devout, very religious member of the one world universal religion of blame. And it's time for us to give up our membership cards. And of course, the basic lie at the root of all of this projection is, if only they would be different. I could be happy if you would change. Your mind's lying to you if you believe that. You will only be happy when you change. Because you'll notice, whatever that dynamic is that you want somebody to be different, you've been through it 87 different times with 42 different people. And you're the one who was there every time. Realizing that, then you understand that people do what they do because that's what they do. And they're not doing it to you or because of you. And every relationship will reflect to you exactly what you need to face, exactly what you need to deal with. But if you continue to think and continue playing the realm of the problem, it's outside of me. If only they would change. You got somebody in your life, if they would change, your life would be different, better. Liar, liar, pants on fire. Because I guarantee if they changed, you'd find somebody else to play it out with tomorrow. As long as you think the problem's outside of you, then you can never change it at its root because you've dissociated from its root. And, you know, there's a piece, I hate to deliver this really bad news, but there's a piece of really bad news that we all need to be aware of. There's only one problem in your life, and you're it. Now, there's some good news, too. And the good news is that there's only one solution in your life, and you're it. And the dividing line as to whether it's the bad news or the good news is, do you live responsible for what's happening inside of you, or do you pretend that what's happening inside of you is caused from something outside of you? The minute that we use the words, you made me, whatever it is that we're going to follow that with, that we think is the cause of what's moving in us, means that we have to hide from ourselves the truth of what's moving in us. We literally dissociate from that. We create a totally unnatural condition called an unconscious mind. When you say to somebody else, you made me, for what's going on inside of you, you're telling your mind to dissociate or hide that part of your mind. You're asking it to dissociate from that dynamic within yourself. And once you do that, until forgiveness occurs, you will never see that part of your mind accurately again. And people will go into relationship after relationship and after relationship, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and they have the same story about, oh, there are a few details that are variations on a theme, but it's the same basic story. You made me. Never suspecting for a minute, because we've so profoundly dissociated from the content of our own minds. And the objective of this work is to bring us back into contact with those parts of our own mind. And so through resonance, you remember we talked about Marcel Vogel, who was a 23-year senior scientist from IBM. And the year he showed up, I used to keynote at a conference called Global Science. And he showed up as one of the other keynote speakers at a conference. And he brought along with him a thing called the Delaware camera. He brought the camera to illustrate that he could take a picture of the high energy waves that leave the mind when we think a thought. Now imagine I've got a 3-foot diameter spring sitting on the floor over here beside me. That spring can't do anything, but what happens if I go over and push on it and lock it down? And I push on it and lock it down, and I push on it and lock it down. And then I get 3 or 4 big guys come and give me a hand, and we really compress that thing and lock it. What happens when I let the spring go? Kaboom. All of that stored energy flies out. If I've lived in relationship after relationship after relationship, where instead of, if it was time for the relationship to be over, instead of walking away talking to myself about me and what I need to change in me, I walked away talking about, boy, if only they'd change, and then go talk to my friends about, boy, yeah, what they did. If only they could, if only, if only, if only. That's like pushing on the spring. So the dissociated content, the content that causes pain that nobody wants to look at, that we were all raised by adults who lived in the one world and were members of the one world universal religion of blame. So they taught us that very well. Each time that happens, it's like pushing the spring down. And then remember, put that together with Marcel's work. What is happening when I push the spring down, when I push that issue down that I don't want to deal with? I'm adding energy to it. When I add energy to it, what happens to the high energy wave that Marcel was able to take a picture of with his camera? It becomes more intensified. It becomes stronger and stronger. Now, I like to call that high energy wave the creative microphone. If there's something I don't want to deal with in my side of the country where people will be different, and the person that picks you up at the airport finishes the sentence that the person that dropped you off started. How do they know what to say to you? You are continuously telegraphing it, and the more times you've been through it, the stronger the telegraphed signal is that says, hey, I need somebody to show up to show me this disease that I've dissociated from in myself. Is there anybody that knows how to kick me right here where I most don't want to look? Guess who you're going to be attracted to? And guess what we call that? We call that a relationship based in matching bags of garbage. And it's perfect because each person will perfectly reflect what's beneath the spring in their partner's mind. And if they have the tools, then that very relationship that would send you straight to hell while you're in denial and dissociation is the very same exact relationship that will carry you straight to heaven, metaphorically. So through that high energy wave, that psychic megaphone and resonance, when I say I don't want anybody who will do this to me, because I've been through it 87 different times with 42 different people, and the intensity of my mind is so deep, I'm calling out energetically with such a deep resonance. Guess who's going to show up? Somebody, the person that knows how to bring me healing. What's that mean? The person who knows how to show me the hidden dissociated parts of my own mind. And nobody likes that until they realize that that's the key to healing. That's the key to every tool that we teach. That worksheet, the forgiveness process, breathing. There's a switch in the human energy system that determines whether or not information that needs to be seen is available or hiding. The switch is the breath. When we hold our breath, whenever you notice yourself holding your breath, become a self-observer. Notice that whatever's going on in your mind right to that point, you're hiding from yourself. And whatever I'm hiding from myself will solidify and lock into my form. Whatever I don't want to look at guarantees that I get to do it again. And so these relationships based on matching bags of garbage are so perfect. And when you enter into one of those relationships, if you choose to gather the tools and do your work, and of course, there are different ways that can be done. You can do it unilaterally, or you can play in relationship with somebody who wants to do it with you. Playing in a relationship where you're doing it on your own can be a pretty lonely, tough place. And the kinds of unconscious files that have been locked down generation after generation after generation in each of our bloodlines are things like hatred and rage, fear and guilt, condemnation. And when you go into a relationship, those things cannot be hidden. They are going to come up. And if you experience someone, let's say, resonating your hatred, the person who lives in denial, dissociation, and projection says, why are you making me so hateful? Projection communication, rather than, wow, what you just did really brought up hatred in me. I'd really like to learn to own this hatred and be done with it. Boy, I watched it in my family. Mom, dad, and oh, geez, my old brother, my younger sister. Once you link your mind to someone, that file folder effect, to something hateful, fearful, sad, grief-stricken, there comes a point where, when people come together, they're quote unquote in love. It's a total fallacy. That's another story. But they'll go on like that for a time period. And then you'll notice we have a statement in the culture that acknowledges the end result of not taking responsibility. What do they say? The honeymoon is over. What does that mean? That means that you've resonated my dissociated guilt, fear, sadness, hatred, rage, vengeance, etc., 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 so many times that I can't keep it held down anymore. I've linked all of that into my brain's image of you. And that's where you wake up one morning and you look at the person beside you, it's like, what the hell am I doing here with you? I can't stand how I feel when I'm with you. Well, it isn't that you can't stand how you feel when you're with them. Because notice when you're with them before the honeymoon was over, notice it was joy and delight and fun. Hey, cool, intimate. Oh, it was wonderful. But then when you started through the file folder effect, hooking up your fear, your sadness, your guilt, your rage, your hatred, your vengeance, then all of a sudden it's like, I can't stand you. But what someone who says that really means is, I can't stand what moves in me that I've hooked up into my brain's image of you. So I need to get out of here. But you'll notice it isn't very long before in the next relationship, you're dealing with the same stuff. Some people read my book, Why Is This Happening to Me Again? And by the way, you can download it free from our website. Just go to whyagain.org/book. And you can download it in, I think, 9 different languages now. When you realize it's happening again, not because of what's going on out there. Most people read it, go, yeah, it's happening again. There was Charlie, there was Bill, there was Harry, there was Hortense. Yeah, look at them. Look at all that happening. No. That's not the why is this happening to me again. The why is this happening to me again? The painful structures in the mind are in the mind. It's when I take this unresolved fear or hatred or vengeance or whatever, and I hook it into my brain's image of you. That's the real why is this happening to me again. Now, I'll think the behavior belongs to you. I'll think that everything that's happening belongs to you because the construct in my mind is a reflection of what is unresolved in me. And once the neural pathways are well established, I mean, you notice in the first relationship, it took what? Before you said the honeymoon, it was 5 years, 6 years. Hey, we had a great time. And then one day the honeymoon, and then, man, that was it. I'm out of here. And then you got into another relationship and you notice, what did it take? 2 years, 3 years. Next relationship, how long was it? A year. The next relationship was the first night. Each circumstance that resonates what you haven't dealt with is your opportunity to change your mind instead of hook your mind up into your brain's image of them. Or pardon me, hook what's going on in your mind up to your brain's image of them. And you just have to do your work from moment to moment to moment. Forgiveness is about removing the tuning fork in your own field. It's not about letting other people off the hook. It's about going inside of yourself. And if what's moving in you is fear or rage or hatred or vengeance or whatever, it's about removing the energetic patterns beneath that. Not letting the person out there who resonated that in you off the hook for it. And when we go into that dissociated state, that unconscious mind runs our lives. Go back, the statement that I love to repeat, and I repeat often over and over and over again till it gets drilled into everybody's mind, from Carl Jung. Until the unconscious becomes conscious, it will direct our lives, and we'll call it fate. And then Jung goes a step further. He says people will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul. You look at what people do in their relationships and to each other, and it's all in an effort not to face what's going on inside of them. And then, of course, the additional bonus in there is that, when you meet someone and they resonate good and wonderful in you, it's great and it's wonderful. And then if they happen to turn their head the wrong way and give you the look, the way that mom or dad used to give you the look, and that meant I was going to get a beating, then all of a sudden the unconscious dynamic behind the beating comes forward. So it comes to the point where this unconscious mind runs our lives. And then, once you've met that person, promiscuity had nothing to do with genitals. The reason they warned against promiscuity is because the minute you intercourse with someone, you gave them access to your genes energetically, and they gave you access to their genes. Notice the drama and trauma in the relationship accelerated immeasurably once sexual intercourse occurred. Because energetically, when two people intercourse, each one is giving access to the other's unconscious mind. So there's a whole increase in the intensity of how things go. If there's content in your mind that's not useful or productive for you, then it's a disintegrative energy in your field. Literally, it's a disease. Any frequency, energy that doesn't belong is a disease. And I'll offer that the purpose of life is to kick you in the limitation. The purpose of life is to show you what you need to look at to heal. A kick right square in the limitation. So does that make sense for everybody? I don't know where that came from, but hey, is that fitting? Does that make sense? Anyone have any thoughts to add? Any questions? Anything happening for you? Anyone want to check in? How you doing? Anything exciting going on in your world? Anything challenging?
Hi,
Go ahead,
Michael.
Lucy. Hey there, young lady.
Everybody.
Welcome.
Well, it's very good refreshment,
Ah, cool.
Yes, and I was thinking on the one hand side, how many times I've said that if you leave one relationship without healing, you enter the same one. But actually what I learned that it doesn't have to be exactly the same one. Like in my own case, one was like more like I was choosing my dad, and another hit all the buttons of my mother. My mom was hitting me, you know. It
Right.
could be different, but it's still be a lot of room for healing. That's what I'm saying. It doesn't have to
Exactly.
be exactly the same.
Right. That's why this workshop's called Healing Through Relationships. When I first taught this goes back, my first Healing Through Relationships workshop was probably it's close to 50 years ago now. And I was actually in Lansing, Michigan. I can remember being there, and the workshop was called Healing Your Relationships because I thought there was such a thing as a diseased relationship. Over time, it became clear as I taught and as I worked with people, wait a minute, no. This isn't a diseased relationship. It's a perfect reflection, a perfect recreation. And we get to look at what we need to heal through our relationships. And if we'll bring, say, for instance, something like the commitment into the relationship, then the dynamics will flow fast and furious, and they'll heal very quickly through conscious interaction with a partner.
Yeah.
You have something to add, Joan?
Yeah.
Joan's got her hand up. She's got something to throw in here.
Yes, I was just so grateful to hear that recap of the lesson. It was just perfect for me today.
You were ready for the next level, were you? Cool.
I hope so. Thank you.
What struck you most deeply about the review?
I am always struck by that camera you talk about.
Oh yeah, the Delaware.
Yeah, I still don't get it, but
well, here, let me see if I can explain it. You know, in the room right now, the room you're in, how much music is playing? Is there any music in the room with you?
No.
That's not true. There's all kinds of music. Just reach over and turn your radio on. And then notice when you tune 900 on the dial, there's one piece of music. You tune 920 on the dial, there's a different piece, 940, 1050, 840, 720. Notice there's all kinds of music in the room right now. You're just not attuned to it. It's not resonating. So in order to bring in a particular frequency of music, particular, if I want to listen to my wonderful FM, classical music, I go to my FM dial and I set the dial so that that dial's tuned to the frequency of the radio station that plays that wonderful music that I like. Well, the Delaware camera, it's as though it's got a radio tuner in front of the aperture. Now, a normal camera, you click the button, and the aperture opens. Whatever light energy is in front of the camera is registered on the plate, and you get a picture of that. So now imagine metaphorically, you put a radio tuner in front of that. Now you tune the radio, or you tune that mechanism to different frequencies, and if that frequency is there and available, then it comes in and is registered on the photographic plate. So if I have like one of a couple of the pictures that I've seen, there's one that was really mind-boggling, and that was of a woman who's pregnant, and there are 3 pictures of her fetus at 1 month, 2 months, and 6 months. And you can see the full development of the fetus on the photographic plate. All 3 pictures were taken the same day.
Wow.
Now you say, that's ridiculous. How is that possible? Well, today there's a certain level of development going on in that fetus. Does somebody go in there and change it tomorrow so that what's going to happen tomorrow is different, and the next day, and then 6 months out? Does somebody go in and change it every day? No, the whole program is there. And just like all of these different radio stations are in the room right now, I can only tune into them when I have the tuning mechanism for them. So this tuning mechanism on the Delaware camera was invented by an Englishman named George Delaware, The tuning mechanism, and I think Jeannie's got a page on the website on if you want to look more at it. The tuning mechanism sits in front of the aperture, and it's just like turning a radio tuner. If you've got it tuned to a frequency that's available, another one of my favorites is there's an acorn in front of it. Tune properly, take a picture, and what shows up on the photographic plate is an oak tree. Now you say that's ridiculous, but in the same way that right now there's all kinds of music in the room, obviously in the acorn there's an oak tree. Obviously the pattern, the vibratory field of the oak tree is there because nobody has ever planted an acorn and gotten a Volkswagen. Nobody's ever planted an acorn and gotten a rose or a tomato plant. Every time you plant an acorn, the acorn takes the water, the minerals, the air, the sun, and produces an oak tree. Because that's the pattern that's there. And obviously in the same way as if we have the device with which to read the patterns in the room, i.e. the TV and radio signals, obviously if it's there, if we've got the mechanism to tune to it, we can read it. And so the Delaware camera is tuned to the frequency of the oak tree and is able to register the frequency that's absolutely invisible. I mean, you cut an acorn apart and chop it into 100,000 pieces. You won't ever find an oak tree in there. But obviously it's there, vibratorily, energetically. So when you have the right energetic tuning mechanism, then you can read that. Resonance, they have the same pattern. There's an energy exchange. Boom, attraction. Oh, we're in love. Look how great it is. Until she gives me the look and brings up what attracted me to her in the first place. And then I speak the word that brings up what attracted her to me in the first place. And now we've got the War of the Roses. Unless you've got two people who choose to be conscious and have tools and go, oh, I realized that what you said resonated some fear in me. And rather than asking you why you scare me so much, why you're always frightening me, I'm going to say, I'm going to take responsibility. Fear just came up in me. And it's, it was after you said thus and so. So I'm going to own that fear and start to work through it. Go for it.
So, Michael, that camera can't take a picture of a fetus and show me the 78-year-old woman, John, right?
I bet, yeah. Well, let's ask the question. So the sperm and the egg come together, and we now have a zygote. First stage, one cell. Is somebody going to go in there from that one cell and insert something new to get two cells? I mean, did some little man go in with a hammer and chisel and cut the cell open and put something new in?
No.
Or is it already there? So it's got 2 cells, and it's got 4 cells, and it's got 8 cells. And it knows how to do that. Obviously, the pattern has to be there to do that.
Right.
The pattern at conception for everything that's going on in you today as what did you say, the 44-year-old woman that you are?
Yes.
Everything was obviously in that single cell, except what you've either added or forgiven. So yes, if you were at the tuning mechanism and you adjusted it, you could look out to, 20, 50, 70, 80, 100 years in the future. The whole pattern's there. Somebody isn't going in and changing it every day for what the thing's going to do tomorrow. So at any point, everything that we're ever going to become is structured within our structure. Now, if we get conscious and there are things structured in our structure, let's say generational patterns of the ABC disease, and we choose to do our work, we're going to remove the pattern of the ABC disease. Or if we don't do our work, we play the blame game and somebody else comes along and pukes on us and we go into rage puking, then we can add more trauma energetic signals that are going to unfold as deeper diseases in the future. In the same way, we could go in, access, forgive those deeper diseases, and remove what, the camera yesterday took a picture and this disease energy was there. And so that disease energy is going to unfold, and 20 years from now, I'll have the ABC disease. Tomorrow, I do the person I'm in relationship with gives me the look, and the vibratory pattern of that disease that's going to be physical in 20 years shows up. And instead of blaming them, I go, ooh, here's some disease energy. I'm going to breathe. I'm going to forgive us this. I'm going to remove this. And guess what? The ABC disease can't show up in 20 years because it's no longer there. That's how energy systems work.
Okay.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Cool.
All right. Any other thoughts for you?
No, I'm good.
Okay, cool. All right. Miss Lucy.
If anybody wants on that subject, because I'm going to pivot.
Go for it. Pivot. Let's go for it.
So it's still about relationships, of course. I had session with Urati yesterday, breathing session.
Right.
And when I came out of one of still points, there was a realization. So the theme was the same theme with Elena, which we've had in the class. And
You mean, why is this happening to me again?
Oh, it's just,
That's
just
amazing.
Something new happened, actually. I still haven't processed that one.
Yeah, working on it.
Right, yeah.
Well, it's probably a big core issue between mothers and daughters in your bloodline.
Exactly. And when I came out of that was exactly, okay, mom, me and I, and when I hit grandma, mom, me, myself and Elena, tears start to come up, and then I check great-grandmother and check up to 8 generations. So it was reduced, emotions were reduced, but because it's less available than starting from from my grandmother. So in other words, I want to ask you for mind shifter or for certain words. So since at least emotion was available, to 1, 2, 3, 4 generations, but probably it hasn't started with grandmother. It's definitely was before. I just thought to ask you for some mind shifter, or how would I approach that?
Well, how about picking a number from 1 to 40?
Let's go for 39.
Okay. And then pick a number from 1 to 13.
13.
Okay. So I'm going to go to section 39, which is healing issues around John the Baptist syndrome, which would be the blame game. Does that tie in with what's going on with the blame and vengeance game?
It's all this. Something like that.
Okay. So then I'll just paste this in the chat. So that's section 39. And then 13 is my safety and aliveness is generated internally through breath, comma, not through agreement or approval. Let me paste that.
Oh, you paste. Okay. So because where am I?
Second here. There it is.
My safety and aliveness is generated internally through breath, not agreement or approval.
So is this issue, of course, when we talked about the issue with your daughter, it was all about approval.
Yeah.
And disapproval. So what happens with your breath when you read that? Are you breathing?
I'm surprisingly breathing.
Yeah. Okay. It's kind of hard to tell from here.
Well, I understand. Yeah, I understand. Um, but if it was not through the numbers and it's just like, what would come to you after what I asked?
Okay, so we can do just come up with one of the spots. So if you want to just take a breath and it's safe, healing, and ease.
Is, I cannot hear.
The generational issues.
Michael, either it's just for me, but your voice disappeared. So
It did for me too. I thought it was my
Okay.
computer.
So it's healing and
It's easy, safe, and healing.
easy, safe. Mm-hmm.
And healing for me to be aware of and forgive. The core generational issues between mothers and daughters in my family.
Yeah, that at this point resonates more. I'm breathing because I'm watching that. I probably would not breathe the way how it feels in my stomach.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, there's a starting point. And I'd take, seeing as how that's such a big one, I'd clear myself a full afternoon and just sit. Phone is off. You're totally in your own space. And you just write and write and write and just do a whole brain dump around that. And it might be, if there's still communication with you and your daughter around it, to pass that on to her and invite her to do the same thing.
That's great.
See if she'd be willing to work on that mind shifter with you.
Okay, that would be awesome. Thank you.
Honored.
I really have some somatics, definitely.
So breathing with you, holding the
Thank you.
space.
Thank you.
Anything else on your mind? Anything else to share?
Well, now my mind is like preoccupied, like grabbed on that.
Okay. Well, then good.
Thank
Then
you.
just please, just stay with it and keep your breath moving.
Thank you.
All right, holding the space for that to open, not just for your generations, but for all of us.
Definitely.
Because those kinds of dynamics, fathers and sons, same thing. Be a nice one to clean up. So, thanks for being willing to take on that project for humanity.
Yes, and you know what I'm thinking? Superficially, everything looks like, oh my God, what's the issue? There is not abandoned children. There is not like this mother would not take care of the daughter. It's all there, yet it's like such a strong, big issue going on.
So I'd put those two things you just spoke about. There isn't a child being taken care of by mother. I'd put those as the first things on the right-hand side.
Oh,
That's what that's what your mind is resonating in response to this mind shifter right now. Yeah.
That's right.
So that's what you want to do, is let yourself, and notice what happens with your breath around it.
Yeah,
So you want
yes.
to, yeah. So there's a clue as to where this is probably going to go for you and what's going to have to be looked at.
Yeah, great. Thanks a lot.
You know, I love the Course in Miracles thought that says millions yet unborn will benefit from the work you do. Millions yet unborn. Cool. Sweet. Well, any other thoughts? Sweet.
Not for me. I'm complete.
All
Thank you.
right. Awesome. Anyone else? We've got 3 minutes. Anyone else have a thought to share? Anything moving for you? Did that resonate anything for anybody? All right, well then let's just take the 3 minutes that we've got left and let's just everybody just close your eyes for a minute. If you're in a place where it's safe to close your eyes. If you're driving, please don't do that. But just allow yourself to just take a couple of deep breaths and allow yourself to just drop you into a deeper level of contact through your breath with your own unconscious mind, and let yourself just imagine for a moment what some of the issues are that have gone on in your family system between mothers and fathers, daughters and sons. And if your breath restricts as you think about that, then open your breath and realize there's probably some work to do in that arena. And sadly, oftentimes, those dynamics end up showing up in marriages as well. So just let yourself breathe and see if, just allow yourself to become aware. Let your breath instruct you here. Let it flow. Let it be connected. And let your breath instruct you as to whether or not any of the dynamics between fathers and daughters, mothers, daughters, fathers and sons, mothers and sons, if any of those dynamics have ever impacted a relationship you've been in, maybe with the person you look at in the mirror, yourself, or with someone else. And if so, just let yourself breathe into that part of your structure. Let it soften. And purposely, consciously engage a breath based in love. This is what in Aramaic was called Rukadikucha. It's not the same breath as all the animals breathe and all humans breathe. It's not the breath of incoherent mind. It's a breath of conscious, active, chosen, love present. Just let yourself breathe into that, and if there's anything resonating out of the conversation that Lucy presented, or anything that Joan brought up, or anything in the first half of the presentation, just allow yourself to breathe into that, let it soften. And allow your breath to bring in the awareness, the thought, the knowledge. I am the light of the world. Let your throat soften, make your jaw soften. Let your chest open. Joining you in connecting in that space of love. Turning your awareness toward mother and father, extending your breath and love toward them, whether they're in their bodies still or not. Just allow yourself to embrace them. Allowing that breath to move fully as you embrace yourself in that presence of love. consciously choosing to breathe in from a space of love. And then, if you have children, take that breath and direct it toward them. See them embraced and held in it. And I join you in knowing that you are the light of the world. And we'll look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Blessings.